Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Pastor Barone Savori, and we're so glad that you have joined us here for this union-wide convocation. We have had a dynamic time already. We heard a great word from Dr. Colin Ross on Friday night. Our young people had a dynamic discussion as well. And then also we heard a powerful word from Dr. James Dodd. Rita and Mirthel Mitchell. I'd just like to share a little bit about them. Rita and Mirthel have been married for 22 years in December. What a dynamic example of a long-lasting marriage. Mirthel has a master's of science in marriage and family therapy and has been a family life educator for over 20 years. Rita, his wife, is the CEO of the Onyx Star Media LLC business, the one that her and Mirthel founded together. They are known as the Onyx family. And let me tell you, if you haven't checked them out on YouTube, you really need to check them out. They have over 5 million subscribers on YouTube, creating family-friendly content, and their videos have been viewed over 3 billion times online. It is awesome. Their relationship with God and with each other has been a guiding influence in their life. Business and ministry has afforded them the opportunity to live out their mission and vision. And so today, I'd like to welcome in a couple of my friends and hopefully some new friends that you will make as well through this live stream. Rita and Mirthel, how are you guys doing today?
Hi, Barone. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing awesome. It's so good to see you guys and catch up again. Thank you so much for joining in with us for this conversation. But I understand this, that it's not only going to be you all that are together, that you have some others as well.
Right. So we're about to link them in right now. It is John and April from Pastor John Nixon. And they have a podcast called John and April, and they have a relationship channel that is awesome. And so we just want to plug that real quick. And then we also have really great friends of ours, Jevin and Elaine. And so we're going to link them in pretty soon so that you guys can hear our conversation about what our marriages look like and what you, if you're looking for a spouse in 2020, some of the things that you might want to think about.
Yeah. How about you, John and April? What's your story?
We have less kids.
What have you guys been doing, and how long married?
It'll be 20 years in December, and I have gray hair now.
I have no gray hair.
As you can see. We have 2 children. John is 15. Julia will be 13 next month, so they're getting up there. And I guess we moved around a whole bunch since Oakwood too, because I'm a pastor. So we've been Georgia twice. We went to seminary at Andrews in Michigan. We've been in
South Carolina,
North Carolina and South Carolina, and now we're in Maryland.
Cool.
So we've been here like 2 years.
What are you guys doing as far as like as a living? Like, what are you guys doing right now?
I'm a pastor. What are you?
What are you? Middle school teacher.
Cool.
Teaching reading language arts.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are in the Maryland area. You're pastoring and you're teaching. How about you, Jevin and Elaine? What are you guys doing?
I'm a medical laboratory director in Madison, Alabama, and I teach at Alabama A&M as well.
Right, Professor, and Elaine.
And I am the chair of the Department of Biological Science.
And now our entire family, this is what we do. So we're married now 22 years this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 4 children. Our oldest is 21 in 2 months.
Wow.
And the next one in line is 20 in 1 month.
It's crazy.
And then there is Shasha. She's 17. She just turned 17, and Shiloh turned 13 this year. So we got some grown folk up in this house.
Dude, can I just say that hearing your kids' age makes you feel so old? I mean, we feel like we raised Shalom and Shanae. You know what I'm saying? They were so little.
University. Yes, that is just crazy.
Crazy.
But the years go by so fast, don't they?
Yes, and I just want to say, like, for the audience to know that we're all connected from Oakwood, but also, like, me and John have known each other from the time we were, like, man,
I think I was 9, Rita, when I met you. Maybe 8.
yeah,
I was in California.
Right.
super young.
So John's dad was the pastor.
He was a pastor at my church in California.
Wow.
And of course, with Jevin being in LA, I kind of like, we've seen each other around from the time we were like, you know, in elementary or high school. And then of course we were all
At Oakwood together.
And then John and April and us, we were even at Andrews together after that at the seminary. So we've all stayed connected. And now, of course, we live in Huntsville next to Jevin and Elaine. So we are all interacting
So
and
connection.
around.
So
So.
connected.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how life is?
Yeah. And it's so cool to still have you guys in our life. You guys have been very inspirational. Like I suggest that one of the things that couples need to do is stay in touch with other couples that are happy and that are successful in their relationship.
Right.
And you guys have been inspirational to us. So when we were asked to do this, we thought of you guys immediately and we're like, we got to make this happen. How can we bring our friends in so that we can all tell the story? Because each one of us have a unique story. You know, all marriages can be successful, but we all come from a different angle. And so we want to get you guys' take and kind of share our stories with the audience. So I have a couple questions I want to throw out and you guys jump in just to share your take on it. And hopefully, you know, this 22 years can rub off on some other people. You know? All right, so here is the first question that I would like to ask. And the first question is how did you meet? So maybe we can start with John and April. How did you guys meet? And kind of tell us briefly your story. Because we only have an hour, so we're gonna try and like do the
Yeah, we gotta cut it down.
Okay, so we'll make this really, really brief. So his cousin is my best friend.
Yes.
And I was always at his family members' houses for, you know, family reunions and all that stuff. And one camp meeting, my dad's a pastor. He invited his dad to preach at the youth tent. Back in the day, we had tents.
Exactly.
And I was at his grandfather's house for lunch, like I always went, and there John was, and I was like, "Oh man, your cousin's cute." And so we met, and
we were 13.
You know,
well, I was 13.
I was 12. I was 12.
I was 13. She was 12.
Okay.
Yeah, but we didn't date or anything then. I mean, we just thought each other was cute.
And we kept sending messages through his cousin.
Yes,
because he lived like in Cali at the time.
No,
right?
I think it was in Massachusetts by then.
13?
I think by 13 I was in No, you're right. I was in California.
Yeah,
You're
he was
right.
with you, Rita, in
You're right.
California.
Right.
Right.
I was in California.
And then tell me, so then when did you guys actually transition from friends to dating? Like, when did you guys start dating and how long did you date before you got married? Because like a lot of people want to know, like, what is that secret time period? Does it have to be
so
the Ellen White 2-year, 4-year?
We started dating her freshman year at Oakwood, which would have been 97. It was my sophomore year. And I knew that she was coming. My freshman year at Oakwood, she came for college days with Pine Forge. Mm-hmm. And when my cousin was my roommate, and Rita knows my cousin Brian too, because he was in California for a while. We were roommates, and I told him, if April Mendenhall comes to the school next year, I'm breaking up with whoever I'm with, and I'm getting with her.
Wow.
That was the declaration I made at college days the year before.
Right.
And so she came, and I was dating someone, and she was dating someone. We broke up with our people, and we got together, and that was it.
Wow, I love it.
We dated 3.5 years, and we sang in the Aeolians together, so we had like, I don't know how many thousands of hours of time on the bus and planes and stuff like that together. So I think our relationship grew kind of quickly. And then as soon as I could marry her, when I graduated, I did. That's basically right.
So that's like from, like, you guys have known each other forever. So first of all, you guys have been dating forever. but technically you guys dated for about what, 4 or 5 years?
3.5.
3.5
years. Okay.
The whole time we were at Oakwood, and then about a semester after I graduated. We got married in December of 2000, so I graduated in May of 2000. So it was about a semester longer, and that was it.
Right.
So
Very nice.
yeah. So it's her whole time she was in school we dated.
Yeah, so I didn't date at Oakwood.
All right, there you guys have it.
Anybody else?
Right.
3.5 years exactly. That is the key. Okay.
That's the key. That's it.
All right, Jevin and Elaine, how about you guys? How did you guys meet? How long did you date before you got married?
Elaine?
Okay, so it was a little bit different. When I was a freshman, he was a senior at Oakwood. I started in 97 with April and Rita. So I actually was a laboratory assistant in Dr. Schmidt's lab. I don't know if you remember Dr. Schmidt. I love Dr. Schmidt. So I was watching glassware, and he was a student in her lab. I think it would cell and molecular biology lab, was it? So
I had a girlfriend, by the way.
yes, he did have a girlfriend.
That's something we have in common.
So he actually worked in the biology department as well. So I would see him around a lot. We had a few conversations. I would see him asleep in the back.
You have to say why I was
Okay,
sleeping.
so at Oakwood.
I worked at Huntsville Hospital, third shift, and worked at Oakwood. So I was tired.
Yes.
You wanted a working man.
Yeah.
I had to pay for that Oakwood tuition.
That's right.
So, I thought he was really cute, but then, I was building up the courage until I realized he had a girlfriend. I said, oh, I'm not that type of person. So I just backed off. But to fast forward, my junior year now, I hadn't seen Jevin since he graduated. And I got really, really sick with bronchitis. It's like I lived in the annex, and everybody in the annex was kind of getting bronchial stuff. So my roommate, I woke up and she said, I have to take you to a clinic or something because you were wheezing last night. I said, oh, goodness. So she said, I will take you down to this clinic down the street. So I went there, and lo and behold, who did I see?
Working there.
Right. So we kind of spoke. Jevin had a little interpretation of what I said, but it's okay. I said, hey, how you doing?
Okay, she basically asked if I was married because I had a girlfriend.
Right.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, "Are you still tired?"
Right.
But okay.
She didn't want to get step to me if I still had a relationship. So
You have to respect if someone's in a relationship. And so when I found out he wasn't in my head, I was like, yes, right. So we're like, let's stay in touch, and we stayed in touch, and we went to the Oakwood banquet. We went to Miss Oakwood pageant. We went everywhere together. And
So tell me, so from the time that you guys started dating till the time you guys got married, how long was that?
it was a little under 2 years.
A little under 2 years. Okay. All right. So now we got to figure this out because now you guys reset the date, and now it's no longer 3.5 years. So I don't know. Maybe we'll reset the date. I met Rita in January 17, 1998, and we got married that same year.
Yeah, really.
So they were months.
12 months.
The very time was
Okay.
like 11 months. 11 months. So I don't know. We take the average. I don't know. Maybe 2 years.
Right.
Okay, 2 years. I'm good with that. How are you guys with that? 2 years? Is that what we're recommending? All right, so that's really cool story. We met at a guy's one of my friends' birthday parties. It was a Sabbath luncheon birthday party. You know how we did it at Oakwood. Everybody's always hungry. They don't want to go to the caf. Perfect reason to go and hang out. And I walked in all my glory. Rita saw me with the light shining on her head. And she'll tell us very differently. But anyhow, I walked in. I did not recognize her. I recognized everybody else. I didn't recognize her. I was actually supposed to be going there to meet another girl that I was checking out.
what?
I asked my best friend if she could set the situation up for me. And I basically forgot about who I was going there to meet. I just sat there all day with Rita, brought her back home in my red neon whip. That's her so much. And that was it. I mean, I don't think Rita has anything to add to that.
I think the common denominator is not the time. It's that we all had other possible relationships that we got out of. That's what you have to have then.
So you need to have another relationship that you
There
can.
you go.
A reference point.
We're just playing.
Oh, that's terrible.
We are playing, but that's. You want to validate what I just said? That
Yeah,
I was
we met at a
in all my
dinner.
glory. Oh, okay.
That's what I'll validate.
Was he glowing in a halo, Rita?
No, he was
Okay.
dripping in like beeswax from wannabe dreads that he could. I mean,
We need to show a picture of that.
for nothing.
Oh
So,
man, yeah. Well, you know what? She was playing in my hair that day. She was like, I was like sitting on the floor.
Touch it. I had to go like, what is going
I
on
was
here?
like, cold. But anyway.
Anyhow, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rita.
He took it as bold. I was going, what?
It didn't feel like that. It felt more like this.
Well, Rita.
But I don't know. The truth is somewhere in between.
Just going.
It's in there somewhere.
Anyhow, so how did you guys know that this person was the one? Because a lot of people think that, you know, there's only one person for them. Do you believe that? And how did you know that your person was the one? Jevin and Elaine, you guys can start.
Yeah, well, so family is important to me. And so my mother at the time would basically look at everybody that I've dated and, you know, would give me her opinion. But I always rebelled because I was like, you know, why are you trying to pick who you want me to be with? You know, want my own identity, wanted my own choices. And really, it never worked out. So maybe there was some truth to leaning on some wiser people. But when I started dating Elaine, immediately my mother's reaction was different. She responded differently to Elaine. And getting to know her and dating her, things just lined up. We had a lot of things in common. We had common goals. And a lot of the important things that you want to line up with, we lined up.
Nice.
We had some things that weren't so in line, but I think it's important to have differences just as well as similarities. You can't be similar to everything. And I think
what were some of those differences? Do you guys mind sharing that? What some of those differences were that?
let me say first that I don't think that there's just one person out there for you.
Okay.
But I think that you want to pick the person that fits you better than anybody else.
Got you.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys want to answer that? Like, what was differences? Because sometimes differences can actually really get in the way. But if those are like really primary differences, what were some of the differences that you guys were able to appreciate and it didn't get in the way?
Well, I would honestly say that Jevin is blunt, right? We're kind of like you, Mirthel. I'm like you, Mirthel.
Right.
Very blunt. I'm more of let me not ruffle any feathers. And sometimes it kind of irked him how it was kind of like, I don't want to get into anything with anyone. And Jevin's like, no, we got to cut it right here.
Right.
So those are some.
You got to be honest at all points.
Yeah.
But he softened me with that though, because sometimes that can be a little rash and abrupt, and people don't know how to take that.
That's happened here too.
You might say this guy's a mean guy, but I'm really like.
But I've softened him up. He's really softened.
Right.
So it bounced out. So there were some things at the beginning that, you know, it kind of irked him, and I can be, I wouldn't say a pest, but if he.
I used to say she beats a dead horse.
Yes.
Murdering animals in your relationship.
You know,
My goodness.
yeah, but I mean, I think now being married so long, we understand each other, and we don't even let things. We're just like, okay, that's Jevin, that's Elaine. You know, we don't do anything. But I do want to answer something though. All right, so in terms of how I knew he was the one. So with me, I was a little bit different. Jevin was actually my first boyfriend. I went on dates with other people. There's people that I liked. I had a lot of guy friends, but I knew I was the type of person that I didn't want to go start seriously looking or dating anyone until I knew I was ready in myself to get married, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I have a lot of guy friends. There were guys that liked me. I didn't know they liked me at the time, but hindsight is 2020.
Right.
Anyway, but Jevin, there was things different about Jevin that kind of drew me to him. And, you know, he really displayed qualities that would be an awesome husband, an awesome father. He was so different from the other guys at Oakwood. And I just knew right then and there, I said, if I get a chance to date him, that would be awesome. So when I saw him at the clinic when I was sick, Jesus.
Yeah, all right.
So I knew he was the one.
How about you guys, John and April? Like, how did you know that was the one? And do you guys think there is only one? Was it only April, John? Was it only John, April?
Yes.
Yes, girl.
I definitely feel like when I think about the way that we're compatible, and maybe I should say the way that we're the same and the way that we're different, I feel like I almost feel like Adam, like God literally fashioned April for me. That's what it feels like. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that once I die, that I don't want April to get remarried and that she can never be happy again. So I hear that question sort of differently. I feel like April is the one that God made for me, but I don't think that means that if something were to happen to either one of us and one of us were to pass away, that we could never get remarried and never have happiness again.
I'm haunting Rita. I'm haunting her.
Okay.
You're gonna run out any guys?
I'm just playing.
So I do feel like, and I think she was laughing, but I think she really believes that. I think we feel as though we were made for each other. But at the same time, I do think it's possible, and I hope God forbid, if I were to die early and she ends up being alone, I keep telling her I want her to remarry.
So I'd be comparing the other people to him, so it wouldn't work out.
It may not, but I think she'd have to marry somebody who also has had the love of their life and lost that person and understands that, hey, I've already had my first love. I just want companionship now or something because it's going to be inferior. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, John and April, let me just tell you, at Oakwood, I used to look at you all as a power couple. I really did.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
I really did.
A lot of people thought we were going to get married. I mean, I
Yes.
think
I thought you were married the next year y'all started dating.
We just found out they were dating since they were 13.
Right. I mean, I think it would be hard to like somebody for that long and actually think that there was somebody else. Like, it's been since you're 12 and 13. When I saw Rita, she was a complete stranger to the point where I was actually going to meet somebody else, like I said. However, from the time I was a young boy, I enjoyed watching my parents and their love relationship so much that when other boys were actually like wanting like a Tonka truck or a G.I. Joe for Christmas, I was actually, and I'm not even playing with you, I was praying for a wife because I wanted to replicate what I would see my parents dancing in the kitchen, kissing, heading off and getting us babysitters and you know where they're going. and so it's just like, I just loved it all. And I prayed about it. And so because I prayed about it, that's how I know that Rita is the one, because I prayed about it. But relationships take a lot of work. And this relationship has taken a lot of work. If I didn't pray about it, there might have been a time where I would have been like, gosh, is there one, is this possible? But I never once doubted this thing because I know through so many things that this was the one that God had for me through thick and thin. And now things are just super great and it just even validates.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just going to be honest, especially because we were married within the same year, we had some challenges that I think maybe if I had been older, maybe if I had been more mature, and maybe if I had gotten to know him better, we wouldn't have had. So I'm going to be honest and say there were times where I was like, what did I do? And I remember calling my mom once going, you are right, I should have never been married. And now I can see that even when you have those doubts, once you make that covenant, you know, it's right. I think it's better and easier to just stick it through because at the end of the day now, I can't even imagine thinking those same thoughts. But there were times where it was so challenging where I was like, I don't even know like why my mind said I should be with this man.
Right.
But now I'm really thankful.
The key is God has to be in the middle of that decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So important.
And
so
he knew that this is what I need. And the challenges that I went through actually helped make me a better person. So
right. Same thing with me. I used to think that I was the perfect one in the relationship and God had sent me for her.
Yes.
That turned around. And then I realized, oh my goodness, God sent this woman.
No,
for
but
me.
it was true at a point. It was true. You know.
She was so immature. I mean, well, I don't want to start nothing.
Just kidding.
I don't want to start nothing. I'm just playing.
No, I was super immature. I wasn't going to class. I was sleeping. He was like, let's go to work. And I'm like, why? What do you mean go to work? You know, I was really immature. But.
Weren't you like 17 when you guys
early.
got married though?
Huh?
Weren't you like 17 when you guys got married? You're supposed to be immature.
I know, right? But
18 when we met.
He's 4 years older than me.
Right.
And he might as well have been like 14. The way he was so mature. And I was like coming in like, woo, college.
I was like 401k, we got to set up for a 401k. We're retiring soon. You know, she's like, what? Like, we're working?
Let's go to the movies.
We're working? I thought we're partying. So yeah, that was a challenge. And that's, differences can make, differences, major differences, age differences, cultural differences, religious differences. These are major things that can be a factor in bringing challenges in your relationship. It doesn't mean that you can't make it through, but these are differences that you've got to think out, and you've got to go to counseling in order to know the person that you're with. Because counseling is not for the person to tell you don't be with that person. Counseling is to get you prepared to be with the person that you love.
But I wanted to ask you guys something. I know it's kind of off script, but
yeah, that's fine.
do you guys feel, because I know Jevin and Elaine, you guys have a West Indian, you're both American, born here, but you also have a West Indian background, right? And then John and
Yes.
April, you guys, I don't feel you have any West Indian in you. I think
No,
it's
it's
just
African-American.
African-American, right?
Yeah, all
Do you
here.
guys feel that actually helps you be more compatible? Because like Marthel and I,
Mhm.
I'm American, he's Canadian with Jamaican background,
Mhm.
and there's been all sorts of differences. Do you guys feel that majorly impacts the relationship?
That's a good question.
Well, I think so. Well, majorly, I guess it depends. But we've worked with couples where they're from totally different cultures, and there are some issues that come up. Like as far as upbringing or the way that you see family or how your children should be disciplined and things like that. So I do think that can be an issue, but I think, like you said, Marthel, counseling beforehand, I think that premarital, talking about those things ahead of time and communicating about the expectations you have in all those different areas that you might have differences in. If you talk about it and set those expectations, I don't think you'll have as many issues. And then be ready to establish your home, your family. Say, well, this is how we were brought up. I respect the way that you were brought up, instead of getting defensive about, fighting on whose is the best. And then figuring out, okay, how are we going to do this in our own family? Our new family, how are we going to establish the way that we raise our kids, or the traditions that we make in our own family? So I think it can, but you can kind of divert that with talking about it.
Because I think the way we think about this is like, okay, so every relationship is going to have issues, and it's which issues you're going to have.
Right.
Really.
Mhm.
So I think there may be levels of compatibility that a couple has that April and I don't have.
Right.
That's in another area, and we just happen to have the compatibility of having a similar cultural background.
Mhm.
So that we have a checkbox on this one because we're from the same culture, so that's good. But then we have other issues over here where we're incompatible or whatever. Another couple's going to have it flipped, maybe.
Right.
So I don't know that it necessarily is any worse than any other
Right.
problem, or it doesn't have to be.
Right.
And that makes sense. And I think that people that, even if you're in a West Indian culture or an African American culture, like there's somebody that's from the South that's like, nah, we're going to Piggly Wiggly. And the other person's like,
That's
what?
true.
Are you kidding? Kroger's,
I
yo.
didn't know anything about that
Kroger's.
Piggly Wiggly until I got to.
And then I heard April talking about Piggly Wiggly and,
I don't think anybody in this house wants to go to Piggly Wiggly. But
No.
seriously, no, but you're right about that, because we start off, I was like, my children are going to say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir.
I'm
Like,
from New York.
he
okay?
did not want that.
I'm like, oh man,
Yes.
yes ma'am, and yes sir. What is that?
Exactly. But he had to decide to respect that.
right.
And we talked about it, and I told the reasons why. And it's so funny, y'all, because once the kids were born and they began to grow up and talk and interact with us, he was like, yeah, I kind of like that yes, ma'am, yes, sir thing. I kind of like that. Because he saw,
Nothing like down south.
that's
Yeah,
all.
there was some southern stuff there, I guess. But you're right. That we're from north and south, and you know,
we do have some things, even with the way, you know, the things we bring in the house as far as food is concerned, you know, just stuff like that. You're right.
Yeah, like I want
No,
helmets.
seriously.
Well, April, you made a good point, April. You said, you brought up a word, you said expectations. I think that's a big key.
It is.
Times our expectations only involve us. We
Right.
consider the other person when we formulate what our expectations are. Unrealistic expectations, that leads and creates issues in areas that for any other purpose would be fine. There would be no conflict.
Right.
Right. So very true. Very true.
Yeah, and I think it's also unfair if you don't communicate those expectations, even if they're unrealistic.
Yeah.
If you don't communicate them and you expect me to do something or be a certain way, you will never communicate it, but then you're upset at me because I didn't do it.
Yeah,
That's not really
Right.
that's true.
Yeah,
That
wanting
doesn't-
that person to be up in your head, and it's just like, no, it needs to come out of the mouth.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the next question, I'm going to direct it to Elaine and Jevin, and then John and April, feel free to jump in, or Rita. You know, society has changed. Like, it's not 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we didn't even have the prevalency of cell phones. So if we had to get with somebody, we had to like walk up to them and talk to them. You know what I mean? And the pool of people that you were able to pick from was slim pickings because it was who was in your vicinity. Nowadays, you know, you're going online, you're going on all these dating sites. People are jumping in your DMs, whatever that means, you know. So
I think they slide into your
Yeah,
they don't. I don't even know. They're hopping. I don't know. Like sliding is the right terminology, right? So so guys, what are your thoughts? Now it's 2020. There is a different atmosphere. How would you handle the situation? What are some of the challenges you see that wasn't in our day, and how would you handle that?
Well, let me start off. I mean, I really enjoyed the Joy Notes at Oakwood. You know, that was before Texas. You remember that?
Right.
But, you know, working at a university, I actually see differences. You know, Jevin also works at a university. Like with us, you know, we were more talking face to face, we're on the phone. But when I see a lot of students, and some of them will come and talk to me, and they said, you know, Dr. V, do you think this guy likes me? And I'm like, well, just give me some more information. And so they would say, well, yeah, you know, he sends me messages. I said, okay, how often? Like once a week. And I was like taken aback. I'm like, when we were dating, we spoke every single day.
Every day, all day.
So yeah, you know, social media, you know, not speaking face to face and seeing the emotion, you know.
Emojis is a new emotion.
Right. And so,
How do you I couldn't date in today's time.
right. You know, it's a different generation. That is what they know. You know, that social connection in person is a little bit different now than it was back then.
And then texting is like shorthand. So all those little shorthand things, like our kids now, you look at their phone, I can't read a text. Abbreviations and all these little shorthands. Like, I mean,
And you know, you can take things out of context in a text. I know people that will argue in a text back and forth. That's not the best way of communicating.
I think you lose the art of communication
Right.
today. A special effort
Right.
to meet in person on top of the social media type
Right. So,
style of communicating.
you know, social media and those devices of communication has really taken over.
Right.
I see some students that will be together in, you know, chapel, and they'll be together. I do see some of that, but that initial connection is different.
So any advice, like anything that you would say, like do it this way then?
Yeah, to the young folks. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
like, so our kids, you know, one thing that bothers me is, and our kids are old enough to have cell phones and talk with their friends. I mean, right now, our daughter will be up all night if she
No,
could,
we take that phone. So
like
quick.
talking. What we do is we say, okay, when it's bedtime, your phone comes and goes right here. They have to put their devices away when they're going to sleep because they don't go to sleep.
Right.
And so I think my advice would be take a break from that type of communication, and every once in a while, make a real connection, like a face-to-face physical connection.
Right. And, you know, as human beings, we are social. God designed us to be social. Designed us to have interaction, direct interaction with individuals. And it's not surprising to see the level of anxiety going up in some of these young people, you know, because they're not really having that social interaction, you know, that we used to have back in the day.
Right.
So definitely we put it down, because sometimes those kids are so consumed in their devices, and when we tell them, okay, that's enough, and then I see them start interacting with each other, I feel really good to see that.
This might not be just advice for young people. This might be advice for grown.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
Phone down and just reconnect. So John and April, how about you guys? And I want to throw another thing in there with you guys. We're going through the quarantine right now. And so social distancing. So like, not only the advice for 2020 relationships, but what advice do you even have for people that are quarantining right now? How are you going to find a person? Are you going to be like loveless until Jesus comes, and then after that there's no marriage?
Yeah, that's true. It's funny because we have a relationship podcast, and so a lot of people come to us for advice. We do counseling and stuff like that virtually.
And what is that site called?
Oh, Just John and April. It's on YouTube.
Got you.
And
I know that, but I just wanted to give them a plug.
Yes, I knew that. Here's what's funny though. Since this quarantine started, our amount of requests for virtual counseling has gone up probably twofold, maybe three. I think we're getting 200 requests now.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So there's two reasons for that. Number one, a lot of couples who were engaged to each other had dates set that were sometime after this quarantine. And as they look over the horizon, they say, I don't know when this is going to end. I have no idea. We may want to just change our date. So they're like, okay, let's get counseling and let's maybe just get married now. A lot of people are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're finding is, it was interesting, the way that people interact with each other during this quarantine is similar to the way people who interact with each other who have long distance relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And they may live in the same town, but because they can't see each other anymore, they just, that's what we suggested them too. Just do some of the stuff that used to be done back in the day when you guys had to have long distance. Now, of course, back then you had telephones, you could write each other letters, you have FaceTime today, you can see each other's face to face. That's kind of an advantage. But I actually think it's possible, and we've seen this a couple of times, for you to sort of fast track your relationship and find out sooner whether or not this is somebody you really like. Because if you're in an earlier stage of your relationship, and now that you're under quarantine, there are things about people that are coming out now, like their real selves. It's happening fast. And so people are saying, hey, I don't like this guy. I can't do this anymore. I'm breaking up. Or, man, I realize now I really like this person. You know what I'm saying?
They're talking more. There's way more communication going on.
Yes.
Because you don't have the hustle and bustle of life and work, going out and doing. And so they're like talking on the phone and FaceTime, and it's happening more than they had before.
It's like really about getting to know the person now, because all the distractions are stripped away.
Right.
You just think about the kinds of things you did for dates back in the day. And most of it was just being together in the same room, but not really interacting. You go to the movies or to, I guess out to eat, kind of, you talk. But, you go to the movies, so you're just watching the movie. Well, except with April, she talks the whole movie.
I saw that podcast.
We saw that podcast. That was hot. That podcast got heated.
But I'm saying I don't think people need to worry about it as much. I think we have, as Elaine said earlier, God has made us to be social beings. We don't have to do anything to try to be social. We're just naturally social.
Yeah.
So just sort of do the stuff that you want to do to get to know the person. And even though you can't see each other face to face, don't let that be an obstacle. Kind of treat it like you have a long distance relationship. And it's possible that some things could come out during this time that's actually something you could get to earlier than you would have been able to if you were face to face. I'm actually very distracted by the way April looks. She's very attractive. I want to spend most of my time not talking.
Oh my goodness.
Got a good one.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. So no, what I'm hearing from the both couples is that upping the communication is so important. Whether it's putting the cell phone down or whether a circumstance draws you guys more closer together, those are really, really great things to do in 2020. It hasn't really changed. And I noticed that all of us kind of looked at each other like, really? Once a week? Because we all know we were talking every day.
Yes, for hours.
For the wee hours of the morning.
Yes.
You know? So if you don't have somebody that really wants to talk to you, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's a sign.
Right, that might be a sign. But I do want to say something about what Elaine said earlier. And the fact that you guys are both, you and Jevin are both on a college campus all the time, you're seeing it. I have noticed from my father. My father's a university professor. My brother, same thing. I have noticed that it seems like younger people have a harder time today being able to detect whether or not somebody really likes them. And I can't figure that out. I'm not sure what that is.
Communication.
Like if I want to know, I just go ask you. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm kind of digging you. You like me too? You know what I'm saying? What happened to that? Like what happens to the check yes or no? Will you
Right.
And the body language, when you're in the presence of the person, you can read the body language.
I thought the same thing, but it seems like people these days don't know how to do that. And I'm not sure what that is.
Well, maybe it's because they have lack of emotion due to depending on text. Like you don't have to really show your emotions because you just put it on your phone.
I see.
So if you're hanging with someone, you may not be showing emotionally what you really feel. And so I could see that being harder, trying to with someone when all you do. I have a buddy, and I'm not gonna, say who it is, but when
Be careful, you only have one buddy. Just so
there's something to when you're more inclined to convey messages over the phone by text versus doing it in person. That says to me it's difficult for you to express emotion in person.
Right.
And I don't know what the cause of that is, but I can only guess that it's trending more towards that for the young people as well because of the texting and cell phone.
Right.
There's just less effort put into that in-person relationship.
Right. So cell phones basically we're saying is like really made it.
I didn't have a pager back when we were dating, so
I got my first pager my senior year at Oak.
I wouldn't be so quick to talk about the fact that you guys were drug dealers. Remember when pagers were like only drug dealers?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I had the big phone. I had that huge phone with the big antenna.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm one of those.
So
No, what I
let's.
wanted to say,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say about the texting. I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit different about that. I mean, I do believe you're right. I feel like the kids are more like, if the person doesn't post something about me on Instagram, that means that, do they like me or not? You're not sure because they didn't post something about you. I mean, I think all those things are true, but I think that if there is, that's their way of communicating. I think about when we were kids, I remember my mom saying stuff like, why don't you write them a letter?
I was like,
what? We always called on the phone. That's what we did. And I don't know. I just feel like this is the way that they are communicating.
This
and
generation.
So we should kind of
Trying to figure out a way to help them to still navigate with the way that they do stuff.
right.
Rather than trying to make them do like we do it. Like your mom was trying to make you write letters.
Right.
FaceTime, even FaceTiming to just get that, because there's so much more than just hearing the voice, but FaceTiming is, and talking more than texting, because you're going further and further away from multiple modes of communication, because we smell, we hear, we touch. The more we move away from that, then that's less communication and less contact.
Yeah.
So get in their space, even if they smell, because it works out.
Yeah.
Look at that smell. I'm not
Yeah, but
saying
what
that,
she's
but I'm
saying,
just
no,
saying-
but what
I'm
she's
just talking
saying
in
is,
general, hon.
what she's saying is adapt.
Yeah, to how
Yes.
they
What
communicate.
they use. Like, for example, one of my older girls, she will, this has happened to her like twice, where someone, I guess, that she probably thinks is cute, she'll go through their Instagram and she'll probably be going through like all their posts and accidentally like one that was posted like a year ago. And she's just mortified. Oh my goodness, they're gonna know that I went through all these photos. And I was like, so this is like the language of the day. Because for me, if I get with someone's Instagram or someone follows me, I all of a sudden start going, oh, let me go through it. I can like something from 5 years ago. I don't care. But they were like freaking out. No, Mom, you can't do that. And I was like, wow, okay. So it's like a totally new language. And I agree, April. It's like, it's about now helping them within the way they speak, their language and their modes of communication.
Right. So I want to get into some specific questions because we don't have much time. So let's do some rapid fire and see, how you can express yourself in like 1 minute. Okay. So first question.
In other words, don't take long.
I know. I feel like we're on a game show now. Okay. All right. So anybody jump in. Would you recommend getting married if neither of you had the job or career you aspired to have? So right now, you guys are all working in the areas that you went to school with. Mm-hmm. Would you recommend getting married before?
I think I have something interesting that's evidence-based with that one.
Okay.
I would. It might be tougher, but I recommend it because we got married and 2 days later went to school. So we didn't have real jobs. We didn't have a lot of money.
Straight together.
We had the same schedules. We spent a lot of time together. We have a lot of outside distractions and responsibilities. We were able to figure out how to build a solid base.
Right.
It was tough. Don't get me wrong. Not a lot of money, but the other things just became so much easier because of that.
Right. And when you're in your careers, it's hard. You're busy, you're bustling, you're doing all of that. And if that's the time that you're waiting to get married, you might have some issues because you both are so busy. And the communication, and they might snap at each other. And, if it's God's timing for you, go ahead and do it.
In fact, that's happened to us after we got married and got our careers. There's a period where we were so busy, you tend to take each other for granted.
Yeah.
Wow. Going there, doing this, doing that. And we make a special effort now to make sure that we don't allow that to happen.
Well, the reason why I asked this question is because there are so many guys. This is really a guy issue that says, I really love her and I really care for her, but I just can't get married until I have a job that I can take care of the kids, that I can, take care of you. But that just seems to slip away. You know what I mean? Like society sets things up that it could be very difficult to get a job, a good paying job or whatever. Right. And so now months turn now into years, and now you're only going to get married if you can personally make it. And I always question that because I said, sometimes it's better to just work together as a team.
Yes.
To do it together so that you get the goals. And in our experience, we started off, I was working at the snack shop for $3.50, and she got a promotion. She left the snack shop and got a high-paying job at Barnes & Noble's for $5.50. And that was it, man. We're getting married. You know what I mean? That's it. We're making $9. And so, but when you do life together and you make those sacrifices, I'm not saying it wasn't difficult. What we're making today and what we make today together is astronomical. I would not even dream that we would be able to make that kind of money. But that when God has a plan, you got to invest a little so that he can take you somewhere. And now I'm grateful.
I actually think
don't make it more than me, by the way.
Yes. Wow. I actually think the question is a very American question. It's almost a question you would ask in a capitalist country. Right.
Wow.
This idea that marriage can't work unless the money is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I'm like, who says that? Where did we get that from? So I think it's funny because we're in a similar situation. I'm working as a pastor, not making that much money, and April didn't have a job at all. We were on one income for a couple of years.
Those are the best years.
Those are the best years of our marriage.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Well, I think we all have similar experiences when it comes to that. The money doesn't make it easier.
Right.
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 You know what I'm saying? Now I wouldn't recommend that a person who can't keep a job think that he's gonna take care of a family. That's a different thing.
Pointing that out.
But I don't think you have to have all your career goals first before you get married. To me, that's kind of out of order. And a lot of people, like you said earlier, Martell, miss out on stuff because they're working so hard to achieve their career goals that they end up not really ever getting the goal of meeting or getting able to marry someone that they really loved. And so I would definitely say it needs to be a thing of prayer. And if the Lord is telling you to do it, he's going to take care of it.
Yeah, I have a friend who said her parents really pushed her to get her career first before she married. And she said, okay, I'm going to follow what my parents said. Every time, you know, they say, well, you need to go to graduate school before you get married. You need to, you know, finish your doctorate. She did all of that. And now she's not married. And she said to me, I wish I had not listened to them, because now I want to be married and I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny you say that, because Elaine's dad wanted her to finish graduate school before we got married.
Yep.
Wow.
Actually, in counseling, we had to ask, is that disrespecting your parents? If you just he was like, you know, the Bible says my mother.
Right. We were like, how to pull that one on you, huh?
Is that like not honoring our parents? And of course they were like, no, you know, not what that means. But we had our first child in graduate school and we were students.
Yeah.
Even with that, those are still, I would say, some of the best times we had in our marriage.
Yes.
Well, let's get to the next question. What stopped you from giving up after your worst fight? You don't have to say what the worst fight is, but what stopped you from giving up after your worst fight?
Our worst fight. We don't have to tell our worst fight, right?
No.
Like we don't have to give you the details. and we don't have to tell you what happened and what was broken. We have none of that.
You can if you want to. You can if you want to. You can tell them that your first wedding rings are at the bottom of Niagara Falls while you are driving to church. You can tell them that, but you don't have to.
So I actually don't remember the details of our worst fight, but I do remember something specific that happened during that fight that had never happened before, and and that is April spoke at a level of yelling that I'd never heard before.
I don't even yell.
Yell.
I never yell. I actually scream.
Yeah.
I actually scream.
Whoa! Can you give us an example? What did that sound like?
No, I never yell, and I scream, "Shut up!"
Yeah.
Like, shut up!
I was like, whoa. Okay.
No, I thought when I did it, I was so frustrated. I don't know what happened to me.
It didn't seem like her. It was like she was outside of herself or something like that.
It was like I couldn't take it anymore. We keep having the same conversation. He's not listening, right? So I just screamed, "Shut up."
But I'll be honest with you, I think after that happened, I listened to her for the first time on that issue in our entire marriage.
No, seriously.
I didn't realize that
It would take me to that level.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that deep. It was like a visceral reaction that she had where something overtook her. She couldn't even control it anymore. And I said, wow, this is...
Would you say it was demon possession? Satan?
It was like demon possession.
I'm sorry. I cannot stop laughing at whenever we talk about this, because his response was so... This dude started laughing. Like, why?
Guys, it just didn't seem like her. I was like, whoa.
And then he was like, what's happening? And then he was ready to listen.
Right.
I was like, what is this? This is the weirdest
Totally see John doing
Our worst fight turned into a good thing at the end, where we were able to get some resolution on something that we've been fighting about for years. You know what I'm saying? It's like it built up, and she just exploded. So I don't. Anyway, that doesn't really ask me.
What was your question?
I would. You guys got so caught up.
What made you not give up after that?
I would agree with them that after some of our worst fights, it was an opportunity. It created opportunity for change because we actually listened to each other. And what I wished was that we didn't fight about it, but I'm so grateful that whatever created the opportunity to hear, it was used to be able to advance us. And I learned a lot of things about myself and a lot of things about the relationship